They bought her a car for graduation, and I took the bus to mine. Then the award went to me. She got the balloons, I got the future. My graduation day wasn't just different from my sister's. It was a brutal, public reminder of a lifetime of being overlooked, of fighting for every single thing while she got it all handed to her. But what nobody saw, what even I didn't fully grasp, was that the very injustice that defined my life would culminate in a moment of shocking, undeniable recognition that left everyone, especially my family, completely speechless. Growing up, Allison and I lived in two different worlds under the same roof. When she turned 7, my parents threw her an elaborate princess party with a bouncy castle and a magician. 6 months later, for my 7th birthday, I got grocery store cupcakes in the backyard. When I asked my mom why, she just patted my head and said, "You're our practical girl, Jessie. You're not into all that fancy stuff." That phrase, "you're our practical girl," became the running theme of my childhood. Allison needed special attention. I was naturally independent. The pattern repeated itself for every milestone. For my 10th birthday, Allison got a brand new bike because she had trouble with balance, while I got a second-hand one from a garage sale. When Allison made the middle school B team for volleyball, my parents rearranged their schedules to attend every single game. When I won the regional science fair in 8th grade, they couldn't make it because Allison had a dentist appointment. By 15, I just accepted it. That summer, I got my first job bagging groceries and collecting carts. I saved every penny for school clothes. Allison, meanwhile, went on shopping sprees with Mom, coming home with bags from the mall. Why does Allison get new clothes every season while I buy my own? I asked Dad one evening. He sighed, that familiar sound that always preceded an explanation of why things were unequal. Your sister struggles with confidence, Jess. The clothes help her fit in. You've always been secure in yourself. We're proud of how independent you are. The words stung. Was I truly more capable, or had my parents just decided our roles and stuck to the script? High school amplified the differences. Allison cycled through expensive hobbies, horseback riding, photography, private singing lessons, each funded without question. I joined the debate team and newspaper because they were free. I worked weekends and summers, saving half for college, spending half on necessities. Senior year arrived with college applications. I had a 4.0 GPA, was salutatorian, and had already won several merit scholarships. Allison had a solid B average. During dinner that October, my parents announced their plan. "We've set aside money for Allison to attend Westfield University," Mom said proudly. "It's expensive, but we know she'll thrive with the extra academic support they offer." I waited. The silence stretched. What about my college? I finally asked, my voice small. My parents exchanged that look, the one that said they hoped I wouldn't bring this up. "Well, Jessica," Dad cleared his throat, "we figured with your grades and all those scholarships, you'd be set. Plus, you've always been so good with money. You've got that nice savings account from all your jobs." The realization hit me like a physical blow. They'd saved nothing for me. Every dollar had gone to Allison's future, while they assumed I'd figure out my own. "So, Allison gets a free ride, and I get nothing?" I asked, barely a whisper. "It's not nothing," Mom countered. "You have your scholarships, and we know how capable you are. Allison needs the extra support. College will be challenging for her." I pushed back from the table. "And it won't be challenging for me? Just because I work hard and get good grades doesn't mean college will be easy or affordable." "Jessica, you're being dramatic," Dad said. "We've always known you'd land on your feet. That's who you are." I spent that night researching financial aid, tears blurring my vision as I filled out form after form. My dream school, Princeton, faded into impossibility. That December, I accepted admission to State University with a generous merit scholarship covering 60% of tuition. I'd have to work and take out loans for the rest. Meanwhile, Allison got her acceptance to Westfield, complete with a college shopping spree to outfit her dorm. The last half of senior year, I took on extra hours while maintaining my grades. At graduation, I delivered my speech, spotting my parents beaming, as if they'd had anything to do with my success. That summer before college was a stark preview. Allison's dorm shopping involved thousands of dollars on decorations and a new laptop. For my dorm, I scoured thrift stores and clearance aisles, buying only what fit in my 2 suitcases. The contrast was clear. Allison was being launched into adulthood with every advantage. I was merely being released to fend for myself. August arrived, sweltering. I moved into my cramped dorm alone. My roommate, Zoe, watched curiously as I unpacked my minimal belongings while her parents arranged her side of the room. "Are your folks coming later?" Zoe asked. "No, they're busy helping my sister move into Westfield today," I explained, smoothing my secondhand comforter. I didn't mention they'd booked a hotel near Allison's campus to help her adjust for days. That first week, while other freshmen explored, I secured a job at the university library, 20 hours a week, shelving books, staffing the desk. It barely covered my room and board. Classes began, and I approached my education with the single-minded focus of someone who knew exactly what was at stake. Every assignment, every lecture mattered, because I was paying for each minute with hours of work and future loan payments. That October, I called home. Mom answered, full of stories about Allison's first month. She's joined a sorority. We just sent her money for the fees. She might change her major from business to communications, says it suits her personality better. When asked about my classes, I shared my perfect grades and growing interest in research. Mom's response was perfunctory. "That's nice, dear. You've always been good at school." Midterm season brought more pressure. The library cut hours. I picked up a weekend job at a coffee shop, pushing my work hours to 25 a week. Little time for sleep, let alone social activities. Thanksgiving break brought me home. Allison arrived with stories of parties, new friends, campus activities. She'd already changed her major once and was considering another. My parents listened raptly. When conversation finally turned to me, I mentioned making the dean's list despite my work schedule. Dad nodded absently, serving himself more potatoes. "That's our Jessie. Always the studious one." The real shock came when Allison unwrapped an early Christmas gift, a brand new laptop. Our parents had bought her one just 4 months earlier. "The old one was too heavy to carry around campus," she explained, admiring the sleek device. I thought of my refurbished laptop with its cracked case, purchased with 3 months of grocery store paychecks during high school. Winter break continued with similar disparities. Allison received new clothes, concert tickets, spending money. I picked up extra shifts at my hometown grocery store. The spring semester brought an unexpected turning point. Professor Coleman, my intro to research methods instructor, asked me to stay after class. "Jessica, I've been teaching for 20 years, and I rarely see work of this caliber from freshmen," she said, handing back my research proposal with an A+. "Would you consider applying for my research assistant position next fall? It's paid, and it would give you valuable experience." For the first time, someone was recognizing my potential not just as naturally independent, but as genuinely talented. Professor Coleman became a mentor who saw my worth beyond my capacity for hard work. Around the same time, my required study group for statistics formed into an unexpected support system. Maya, a journalism major working 3 jobs to support herself, and Tyler, a first-generation college student on scholarships, became friends who understood my situation in ways my family never could. "My parents think tuition is all they need to cover," Tyler confided one night. "They don't understand about books, supplies, living expenses." Maya nodded. "Mine can't help at all. Everything's on me. Some days I wonder if it's worth it," she added. "It has to be," I replied, with conviction that surprised even me. "We're building something they can't take away from us." By spring finals, our trio had formed an unshakable bond. When grades posted, all 3 of us had made the dean's list. The last week of freshman year, I called home with my accomplishments: dean's list, acceptance to Professor Coleman's research position, an invitation to join the honors college. "That's wonderful, Jessica," Mom said distractedly. "Listen, can I call you back? We're helping Allison book her summer trip to Europe. Her art appreciation professor recommended this program in Italy, and we want to get her deposit in before spots fill up." I hung up, staring at the phone, realizing my academic triumphs would never compete with Allison's most basic needs in my parents' eyes. The pattern established in childhood was only becoming more pronounced. As freshman year ended, I faced the summer with determination, not disappointment. While Allison explored Italian art galleries on our parents' dime, I secured a research stipend through Professor Coleman that allowed me to stay on campus and work ahead on next year's projects. The foundation I was building might be less glamorous than my sister's European adventure, but it was mine, earned through merit, not entitlement. Sophomore year started with a sense of purpose I hadn't felt before. Professor Coleman's research assistantship provided both income and invaluable experience. It also came with an unexpected benefit, a small office in the research wing I could use for studying. Meanwhile, Tyler heard about a prestigious internship at the State Department of Education. "You should apply," he insisted. "They want someone with strong research skills, and that's literally what you do every day." "Those internships always go to juniors and seniors," I objected. "Just try," Maya chimed in. "The worst they can say is no." Against my better judgment, I submitted an application. 2 weeks and 3 interviews later, I became the first sophomore ever selected for the position. That Thanksgiving, I arrived home with legitimate professional accomplishments. Surely now my parents would recognize I was building something significant. The holiday table told a different story. Allison dominated conversation with tales of her semester abroad in Barcelona, which our parents had funded after she'd grown bored with her classes at Westfield. "The Spanish lifestyle just speaks to me," she sighed dramatically. "I'm thinking of switching my major to international studies." This would be her third major change in less than 2 years, each switch extending her timeline to graduation, with our parents absorbing the additional costs without comment. When conversation finally turned to me, I shared news of my internship and research position. "Oh, how nice," Mom said with the same tone she'd use for a child's crayon drawing. "Is that paying well? Are you able to cover your expenses?" No congratulations, no pride, just practical concerns about whether I was managing financially. "I had an article accepted to the undergraduate research journal," I added, hoping for some recognition. Dad nodded. "Always the bookworm. Don't work too hard, Jesse. College is supposed to be fun too." Later that night, I overheard my parents discussing Allison's request for an off-campus apartment for junior year. "The dorms are too noisy for her to focus," Dad explained. "If we want her to succeed, we should help her find somewhere quieter." The irony, given my perfect GPA despite working multiple jobs, felt like a physical pain in my chest. Junior year brought new challenges. My aging car, a high school graduation gift from my grandmother, broke down. The repair estimate exceeded its value. "Could you help me with a car loan?" I asked my parents. "Just until summer. I can increase my hours to pay you back." The awkward silence said everything. "We're really stretched thin right now, Jessica," Dad finally replied. Allison's apartment security deposit was substantial, and we just had to cover her summer school tuition since she dropped those spring classes. "I understand," I said automatically, though I didn't. Not really. The loss of my car meant reliance on the erratic campus bus system. My carefully choreographed schedule now included extra transit time, eating into precious study and sleep hours. Sometimes the last bus left the library before I finished my shift, forcing me to walk 30 minutes back to my apartment in the dark. That same semester, an unexpected dental emergency depleted my meager savings. 2 cavities, no insurance. The bill hit like a physical blow. Despite these setbacks, my academic star continued to rise. Professor Coleman included me as second author on a paper published in a respected journal. My work at the Department of Education led to an expanded role. The Honors College selected me to mentor incoming students. These professional and academic successes stood in stark contrast to my personal struggles. My apartment, shared with 3 other working students, was cramped and noisy. My meals consisted largely of ramen. My wardrobe remained unchanged since high school. Allison's junior year, from what I gathered during increasingly infrequent family calls, was progressing in the opposite direction. Her fully funded apartment featured brand new furniture. Her third major switch had been approved, resetting some credits, and potentially adding a fifth year to her university time. She joined an expensive fitness club because the university gym doesn't have the right vibe. Another cost our parents absorbed without question. Spring break of junior year marked the breaking point in my tolerance for the disparity. I'd planned to spend the week catching up on research and getting ahead on my thesis proposal. A call from Mom changed everything. "We're all going to Cabo San Lucas for spring break," she announced cheerfully. "Allison's been studying so hard, and we thought a family vacation would be nice." "Wow, that's short notice," I replied, my stomach sinking. "When is this happening?" "Next week." "We just booked the tickets," Mom said. "Can you get the time off work?" Her question revealed how little they understood my reality. Getting time off would mean forfeiting a week's income one desperately needed. Purchasing a last-minute plane ticket was impossible. And studying hard for Allison meant something entirely different than my reality. "I can't afford to miss work or buy a plane ticket," I explained. "But you all enjoy the trip." "Oh," Mom sounded genuinely surprised. "Well, maybe we could help with the ticket if that's the issue." The selective generosity stung worse than no offer at all. They could fund a spontaneous international vacation for my sister and themselves, but had denied my request for a small car loan just weeks earlier. "That's okay," I said, voice tight. "I have research deadlines anyway." While my family sent beach selfies from Mexico, I picked up extra shifts at the library to cover an unexpected rent increase. The contrast couldn't have been clearer. My sister's stress warranted tropical recovery. Mine was simply expected as part of my existence. Senior year approached with both promise and apprehension. My academic accomplishments had positioned me well for graduate school or career opportunities, but the financial tightrope I'd walked for 3 years was fraying dangerously thin. Student loan debt loomed. My work schedule had reached maximum capacity, and the emotional toll of my family's unequal treatment had created a wound no professional success could fully heal. Senior year began with a strange mixture of excitement and dread. Academically and professionally, everything was falling into place. Professor Coleman had recommended me for the department's highest honor. My internship had converted to a paid fellowship. Graduate schools were sending recruitment materials, impressed by my research publications and perfect GPA despite my heavy work schedule. On the personal front, however, the fault lines in my family relationships were cracking wider. It started with a seemingly innocent family group text in September, planning Allison's graduation celebration for May. "Thinking of renting the lake house for the weekend. Save the dates. May 15th, 2017, Mom wrote. I stared at my phone, a cold feeling spreading through my chest. My own graduation ceremony was scheduled for May 16th. Not once had anyone asked about my graduation plans or mentioned celebrating my achievement. "My graduation is on the 16th, I texted back. 3 hours passed before Dad replied, "Oh, is that the same weekend? Let me check Allison's schedule again." The next day came the follow-up, confirmed. "Allison's ceremony is at 10 a.m. on Saturday the 16th. Is yours later? Maybe we can make both." The maybe hung in the air like a verdict. For years of unequal treatment distilled into a single word that made it clear whose milestone mattered more. "Mine is at 2 p.m., I responded, then silenced my phone. October brought midterms and, with them, an unexpected dinner invitation from my parents. They were visiting Allison for her school's parents' weekend and suggested meeting halfway. Curiosity, more than optimism, prompted me to accept. The restaurant was upscale, the kind I never entered on my student budget. Allison arrived sporting designer clothes and a fresh haircut. My parents beamed as we were seated, and I steeled myself for the usual dynamic. The bombshell dropped over appetizers. "We have exciting news," Mom announced, reaching for Dad's hand. "We've placed a deposit on a graduation gift for Allison, a new car. The dealership is holding a red Audi A3. Exactly what she's always wanted." Memories flashed through my mind, the time I'd asked for help with textbooks sophomore year and been told finances were tight, the dental work I was still paying off, the countless bus rides in rain and snow after my car died. "That's quite a gift," I managed to say, my voice steadier than I felt. "Well, she's worked so hard," Dad explained. "And she'll need reliable transportation for job interviews." I bit back the obvious response. Hadn't I worked hard too? Wouldn't I also need transportation? Actually, Allison interjected, I'm thinking of taking a gap year before job hunting. Maybe travel through Southeast Asia, find myself a bit before settling down. My parents nodded as if this were perfectly reasonable. Another year of financial support, another experience funded without question. What about you, Jessica? Any big plans after graduation? Dad asked, as if just remembering I was also completing my degree. I've received 3 job offers, I replied. And acceptances to graduate programs at Columbia and Stanford with scholarships. I'm weighing my options. Always the academic, Mom said with that familiar, dismissive tone. Just don't get so caught up in work and study that you forget to live a little. The irony was breathtaking. My achievements, despite every obstacle, were reduced to some character flaw, while Allison's mediocre performance, with every advantage, was celebrated as deserving reward. November brought the final confirmation that I would be attending graduation alone. The text came on a Tuesday evening as I finished my library shift. Honey, we've looked at the schedule and we just can't make both ceremonies work with the lake house booking. Since we've already put down the deposit and Allison's ceremony is earlier, we'll need to attend hers. I'm sure you understand. You're so independent. Maybe we can have dinner the following weekend to celebrate. Love you. I didn't respond. What was there to say? For years of sacrifice and achievement, and they couldn't manage to attend a 2-hour ceremony. The message was clear. Allison's mediocre completion of a fully funded education mattered more than my magna cum laude graduation, achieved entirely through my own efforts. That night in my apartment, the dam finally broke. I sobbed into my pillow, releasing years of hurt, disappointment, and anger. My roommates were out, leaving me mercifully alone. When the tears finally subsided, I called the one person who had consistently valued my worth. Maya, they're not coming to my graduation, I said when she answered. Those absolute jerks. Maya responded without hesitation. Tell me everything. I poured out the whole story. Jessica, Maya said when I'd finished, I need you to hear something important. Your parents' failure to see your worth doesn't diminish it. Their blindness doesn't make your light any less bright. It shouldn't still hurt this much, I whispered. Of course it hurts. They're your parents. But look at what you've built without them. You've earned every single thing you have. No one can take that away. After we hung up, I sat at my small desk. For the first time, I allowed myself to feel something beyond hurt, pride. Not the defensive pride I'd used as a shield, but genuine pride in what I'd accomplished against tremendous odds. That night, I made a decision. I would attend graduation alone, head held high. My achievements needed no witnesses to be valid, and whatever came next would be built on my own terms, without expectation of the support that had never materialized. December brought final exams and an unexpected email from the Dean of Students' office requesting a meeting. Concerned, I rearranged my work schedule. Jessica Parker, Dean Whitman smiled as I entered her office. Please have a seat. I've been looking forward to meeting you. Confused, I sat across from her. Is there a problem with my graduation application? Quite the opposite, she replied. Your name has been submitted for a special recognition at commencement. Before we announce it, I wanted to meet with you personally. My confusion must have shown, because she continued. Every year the university selects one graduating senior for the Chancellor's Award for Excellence and Perseverance. It's our highest honor given to a student who exemplifies extraordinary achievement in the face of significant challenges. I didn't apply for any award, I said. You were nominated by several faculty members, led by Professor Coleman. Your story is remarkable, Jessica. Working multiple jobs while maintaining perfect grades, publishing research as an undergraduate, and doing it all without family financial support. She paused. The committee was unanimous in selecting you. The recognition I'd never received from my family was coming from my academic community instead. The irony wasn't lost on me. There's more, Dean Whitman continued. The award comes with a monetary prize, but this year an anonymous donor has matched the amount to establish a scholarship in your name for future students who are self-supporting. Tears threatened, but I held them back. Thank you. This is unexpected. We'll announce it at commencement, of course. I understand your family will be there. The question was innocent, but piercing. Actually, no. They'll be attending my sister's graduation the same day. Something flickered across Dean Whitman's face. Understanding, perhaps. Well, then, I'm especially glad you'll have this moment of recognition. You've earned it, Jessica, many times over. As May approached, I found myself in the strange position of preparing for the most significant academic achievement of my life, with no one to share it. Maya and Tyler would be at their own ceremonies. Professor Coleman would be on stage. I would walk alone. The night before graduation, I pressed my one business outfit, polished my professional shoes, and set out my honor cords and bus pass. Everything was ready, except my heart, which still ached with the absence of family support. As I prepared for bed, my phone chimed with a text from Mom. "We're so proud of you, Jessica. We might try to stop by your ceremony after Allison's if traffic isn't too bad. Love you." The afterthought stung worse than no message at all. I set my phone aside without replying and climbed into bed, reminding myself that tomorrow wasn't about who would be watching. It was about what I had accomplished despite every obstacle. Graduation morning dawned bright and clear. Sunlight streamed through my blinds as if nature itself approved. I rose early, taking extra care with my appearance. The business suit I'd purchased from a consignment shop fit well enough, and I'd splurged on a professional blowout the evening before. Small luxuries that felt significant after years of bare-bones living. The bus to campus was crowded with families. Their excitement highlighted my solitude, but I refused to let it dim my own sense of accomplishment. Campus had transformed overnight into a celebration zone. I collected my rented regalia and carefully put it on in a restroom. The black gown, honor cords, and cap transformed me outwardly into what I already was inside, a graduate who had earned every thread through perseverance. "Jessica, there you are." Professor Coleman's voice cut through the crowd. She hurried over, resplendent in her own academic regalia. "I've been looking everywhere for you." "I just got here," I explained. She studied me with a knowing look. "No family yet?" I shook my head. "They're at my sister's ceremony. They might stop by later, but I'm not counting on it." Professor Coleman's expression softened. "Well, I'm here, and I'm incredibly proud of you. Do you have time for coffee before the lineup? There's something I'd like to discuss." We found a quiet corner in the student center. "You know about the Chancellor's Award, of course," she began. I nodded. "Dean Whitman told me." "I still can't believe it." "Believe that nobody deserves it more," she said. What Dean Whitman might not have emphasized is how significant this award is. It's not just an honor, it's recognition at the highest level of what you've accomplished. The president of the university will read your citation. Your story will be shared with everyone present. My stomach tightened. "My story? Not the personal details," she assured me quickly. "Just the fact that you worked your way through college independently, maintained perfect grades, contributed to published research, and secured prestigious job and graduate school offers." The thought of having my situation broadcast to thousands was uncomfortable. I'd kept my struggles largely private. "I know that look," Professor Coleman said gently. "You're worried about being exposed. But Jessica, what you've done isn't something to hide. It's something to celebrate. You're an inspiration to every student who's struggling to make it on their own." Her words shifted something in my perspective. Perhaps my journey wasn't just a series of hardships, but a testament to what was possible with enough determination. "The other thing," she continued, "is that several department chairs and university benefactors have specifically asked to meet you at the reception. Your reputation has spread beyond our department. These connections could be invaluable for your future." For so long, I'd focused on simply surviving. The idea that my struggles might actually be launching me toward exceptional opportunities hadn't fully registered. "Thank you," I said finally. "For everything. For seeing my potential when my own family didn't." Professor Coleman reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "You made yourself impossible not to see, Jessica. That's the most remarkable thing about you." We parted ways an hour before the ceremony. The quad had transformed into an orderly chaos of black-robed students. As I took my position, my phone vibrated with a text from Mom, "Allison's ceremony running long." Doubt we'll make it to yours. Take pictures for us. So proud. The expected disappointment came, but it felt different now, distant, as if it belonged to a past version of myself. Today wasn't about their absence, but about my presence, my achievement despite every obstacle. The music began, and our procession moved forward into the main arena. I scanned the crowd briefly, a reflexive action rather than real hope. As expected, no familiar faces appeared. Once seated, I listened as the university president welcomed everyone. Distinguished alumni delivered inspirational messages. Then came the special awards portion. My heart raced as the university president returned to the podium. Each year, the university bestows its highest honor, the Chancellor's Award for Excellence and Perseverance, upon one exceptional graduate who exemplifies extraordinary achievement in the face of significant challenges, he announced. This year's recipient maintained a perfect 4.0 GPA while working multiple jobs to finance her education entirely independently. She published research in prestigious journals as an undergraduate, secured competitive fellowships, and has been accepted to top graduate programs with scholarships. Ladies and gentlemen, I am honored to present the Chancellor's Award to Jessica Parker. The audience erupted in applause. I made my way to the stage, conscious of every step, every breath. This moment felt surreal, as if happening to someone else. The president shook my hand and presented me with an engraved crystal award and certificate. Miss Parker will share a few words, he announced, gesturing to the microphone. I hadn't prepared a speech, but as I looked out at the sea of faces, the words came naturally. Thank you for this honor, I began. My journey through college has taught me that education is precious. Precisely because it isn't easy. Every class, every assignment, every early morning and late night represented a choice to invest in myself when easier paths were available. To any student facing obstacles that seem insurmountable, I want you to know that your struggles don't define you, they refine you. I paused, suddenly aware of movement at the back of the arena. People finding late seats, I assumed, and continued. I'm grateful to the professors who saw my potential, particularly Professor Coleman, who showed me what academic mentorship truly means. I'm grateful to the friends who became family when blood relatives couldn't be present. And I'm grateful to this university for creating a space where determination can overcome disadvantage. The president stepped forward again. In addition to this recognition, I'm pleased to announce the establishment of the Jessica Parker Perseverance Scholarship, which will support future students who, like Miss Parker, are financing their education independently. This scholarship ensures that her legacy of determination will benefit generations to come. As I returned to my seat amid continued applause, I noticed 3 latecomers being ushered to seats along the aisle, my parents and Allison. Their expressions registered shock as they looked from me to the stage and back again, clearly trying to process what they just witnessed. They hadn't expected to enter during my moment of triumph, to see their neglected daughter being celebrated by thousands while they scrambled for seats. Our eyes met briefly. In my parents' faces, I saw confusion mixed with something else. Perhaps the first genuine recognition that they had underestimated me all along. Allison's expression was easier to read, pure surprise, with an unmistakable edge of jealousy. I turned away, focusing on the ceremony. Their presence or absence no longer defined this moment. I had built something they could neither take credit for nor diminish. For perhaps the first time in my life, I felt truly and completely free of the need for their approval. The remainder of the ceremony passed in a blur of emotions. When my name was called again to receive my diploma, the audience's applause seemed to linger. As I crossed the stage, I caught sight of Professor Coleman among the faculty, her face alight with pride. After the ceremony ended, I made my way to the department reception alone, the crystal award tucked carefully in my bag. I had just enough time before my evening library shift to make an appearance, thank my professors, and slip away. I never expected to be intercepted by my family near the reflecting pool. Jessica, Mom called, waving frantically. Wait up. I paused, watching them hurry toward me. Why didn't you tell us about the award? Dad demanded without preamble. We would have made arrangements to be here from the beginning. The old Jessica might have apologized, might have minimized the achievement to ease their obvious discomfort. The woman I'd become simply stated the truth. I didn't think it would change your plans. Allison's graduation and celebration took priority. That's not fair. Allison interjected. We didn't know you were getting some big award. And would it have mattered if you did? I asked quietly. For years of perfect grades, multiple jobs, and research publications didn't warrant your attention. Why would an award change that? My parents exchanged uncomfortable glances, reality finally beginning to penetrate. We're very proud of you, Mom said, reaching for a hug. I didn't step forward to receive it. So proud. This is just unexpected. It shouldn't have been, I replied. Nothing I achieved today happened overnight. I've been excelling for years while you focused elsewhere. Dad shifted awkwardly. Look, we came to celebrate. We're here now. Let's not ruin the moment with accusations. I'm not accusing. I'm stating facts. My voice remained calm. And I appreciate that you made it for the last few minutes, but I have other plans now. People are waiting for me. We thought we'd take you to dinner, Mom said, clearly thrown by my lack of enthusiasm for their belated attention. The reservation isn't until 7, but maybe we could move it up. I thought of the department reception, where Professor Coleman and others were expecting me, of the friends who had supported me daily rather than as an afterthought. I can't. I have previous commitments with the people who have been here for me all along. I gestured toward the academic buildings. But thank you for the offer. Jessica. Dad began, but I cut him off with a raised hand. Today isn't about making you feel better about your choices. It's about celebrating what I've accomplished despite them. I hope you enjoyed the ceremony, and I'll see you at some point before you head back. Without waiting for their response, I turned and walked toward the department reception. For the first time, I felt no guilt, no obligation to manage my family's feelings at the expense of my own. The liberation was as sweet as the academic victory itself. The department reception buzzed with conversation and laughter. I paused at the threshold, conscious of arriving alone while family groups dominated the space. Jessica, over here. Professor Coleman waved from across the room. Here she is. Professor Coleman beamed as I reached their circle. Jessica, I'd like you to meet Dean Harrison and these distinguished alumni who've been very interested in hearing about your work. The next hour passed in a whirlwind of introductions, questions about my research, and discussions of my future plans. These strangers engaged with my academic journey with more genuine interest than my family had shown in 4 years. A prominent alumna who ran a major research foundation pressed her business card into my hand. The Dean of Graduate Studies mentioned scholarship opportunities one hadn't known existed. You've made quite an impression, Professor Coleman murmured. That was Victoria Chin who gave you her card. Her foundation funds some of the most innovative research in our field. I never expected any of this, I admitted, overwhelmed by the sudden rush of opportunities. Get used to it, she smiled. Excellence is magnetic, especially when it's achieved against the odds. As the reception continued, I caught glimpses of other students with their proud parents. Under normal circumstances, the sight might have triggered familiar pains of longing. Today, surrounded by professional connections and academic mentors who valued my achievements, the absence felt less acute. The reception was winding down when Professor Coleman touched my elbow. There's someone else who asked to meet you. The donor who funded your scholarship. She led me to a quiet corner where an elegant older woman waited. Jessica, this is Dr. Eleanor Wright, class of 1978. Dr. Wright, our Chancellor's Award recipient, Jessica Parker. The woman extended her hand with a warm smile. It's a pleasure to finally meet you, Jessica. I've heard so much about your journey. Thank you for your generosity, I said. The scholarship will make a tremendous difference for students like me. That's precisely why I wanted to establish it, she said. I was you 47 years ago, working multiple jobs to put myself through school while watching my brother receive every advantage. The details differ, but the story remains remarkably similar. The unexpected connection caught me off guard. How did you handle it? Not as gracefully as you, she admitted with a slight smile. There was a lot of anger, resentment. It took years of therapy to understand that the disparity wasn't about my worth, but about my parents' limitations. They simply couldn't see beyond their own biases and expectations. Did they ever recognize what they'd done? I asked. Dr. Wright nodded slowly. Eventually. After I'd established my career and no longer needed their approval, my success became impossible to ignore. By then, I'd built a life that was entirely my own creation. She studied me with knowing eyes. Your family was here today. I saw their late arrival during your award presentation. Their reaction to seeing you honored publicly. It must have been quite a moment. Confusing for everyone involved, I acknowledged. They seemed shocked, maybe a little embarrassed. I'm still processing it myself. That's the beginning, Dr. Wright said. This moment, this public recognition, has disrupted the narrative they've built around you and your sister. They can no longer maintain the fiction that your achievements are expected while hers deserve celebration. What happens next, that depends on them and on you. Some parents can grow and acknowledge their mistakes. Others double down on their established patterns. Either way, your path forward remains the same. Continue building your life on your terms. She produced a business card. My foundation focuses on educational equity. We're always looking for voices that understand the experience from the inside. When you're ready, I'd like to discuss possibilities. As she rose, Dr. Wright added one final thought. Remember this, Jessica. The greatest revenge against unfair treatment isn't anger or resentment. It's spectacular success coupled with genuine happiness. I think you're well on your way to both. Our conversation lingered in my mind as I left the reception. The library had given me the evening off, leaving me unexpectedly free. Rather than return to my empty apartment, I found myself drawn to the central plaza where the main ceremony had taken place hours earlier. The massive space was nearly deserted now. I sat on a bench, reflecting. The sound of approaching footsteps broke my reverie. Looking up, I saw my family walking tentatively toward me. We figured we might find you here, Dad said. You always liked quiet places to think. His observation surprised me. We were hoping we could still have that dinner, Mom added. Our reservation isn't for another hour. I studied their faces. Why no? I asked finally. What changed between this morning, when my graduation was an afterthought, and this evening? The directness of my question caught them off guard. They exchanged glances before Dad spoke. Seeing you up there, being honored like that, it made us realize we might have misjudged some things. Might have. The words slipped out. We did misjudge, Mom amended quickly. We've taken your success for granted while pouring resources into supporting Allison. We thought we were doing what was best for both of you, based on your different needs. But we never asked what you needed, Dad continued. We just assumed you didn't need anything. Their acknowledgement should have felt vindicating. Instead, it highlighted how fundamentally they had misunderstood me for years. My independence hadn't been innate, it had been forced upon me. I did need things, I said quietly. Financial support, yes. But more than that, recognition, celebration of my achievements, the sense that my hard work mattered to you as much as Allison's struggles. Allison stepped forward unexpectedly. I didn't realize how uneven things were, she admitted. I've been so caught up in my own stuff that I never questioned why you got less. I'm sorry, Jessica. Her apology felt more genuine than our parents' stumbling recognition. Thank you, I acknowledged. That means something. An uncomfortable silence settled until Mom tried again. Will you come to dinner, please? We'd like to hear about your awards and plans. I considered the invitation, weighing my lingering hurt against the possibility of a new beginning. But something felt premature about celebrating with them now. I appreciate the invitation, I said carefully. But I already have plans with friends who have supported me consistently throughout college. People who saw my worth before I had an award to prove it. Their disappointment was visible, but I continued. I'm not saying no forever, just for tonight. This isn't something we can fix over one dinner after graduation. What do you need from us? Dad asked. And the simple question, perhaps the first time he'd ever asked it, caught me by surprise. Time, I answered honestly. And consistency. If you're genuinely interested in my life and achievements now, show me over time, not just today, when it's been publicly validated. They nodded slowly, absorbing the boundary I'd established. We're proud of you, Mom said, the words sounding more genuine than when she texted them earlier. Truly proud, and we'd like a chance to do better. I'd like that too, I acknowledged. But it will take more than words. As they turned to leave, Allison hung back for a moment. For what it's worth, she said quietly, watching you up on that stage today was amazing. You earned every bit of that recognition. Her words, perhaps the first unqualified admiration she'd ever expressed toward me, landed softly. Thank you, Allison. I watched them walk away, feeling neither triumph nor bitterness, but something more complex, the beginning of a separation between my self-worth and their recognition of it. Whether they ever fully acknowledged the imbalance they'd created, I now knew with certainty that my value existed independently of their ability to see it. My phone buzzed with a text from Maya. Celebration at Riverside Cafe in 30. Tyler, Zoe, everyone's coming. You better be there, Chancellor's Award winner. I smiled, pocketing my phone and taking one last look at the empty graduation plaza. Whatever came next, graduate school, career, reconciliation with my family, or continued distance, I would face it on my own terms, surrounded by people who recognized my worth from the beginning. As I walked toward the campus exit, the setting sun cast long shadows across the quad, a fitting visual for this day of endings and beginnings. The bus stop was empty. I opened the rideshare app. Today, I decided, was worth a small splurge. I had places to be, and people waiting for me, people who had chosen to be my family when biology had fallen short. 6 months after graduation, autumn painted the city in golden hues as I settled into my new routine. The job offer I'd accepted put me in a downtown office just blocks from the state education department where I'd interned. The salary, while entry-level, felt like unimaginable wealth after years of student poverty. Having my own tiny apartment, modest as it was, represented a luxury I'd never experienced. My professional life had launched with unexpected momentum. The connections made through Professor Coleman and other mentors opened doors. Dr. Wright's foundation had offered me a position on their Young Professionals Advisory Board. The contrast between my current stability and the precarious balancing act of my college years sometimes felt surreal. No more rushing between multiple jobs. No more calculating whether I could afford both textbooks and groceries. The constant background anxiety of financial insecurity had diminished, though not completely disappeared. Some survival habits were hard to break. My relationship with my family remained complicated. True to their graduation day promises, my parents had made initial efforts to acknowledge the imbalance. They sent occasional texts asking about my work. They remembered my birthday with an actual gift rather than just a phone call. Small steps, but noticeable ones. Allison and I had established a cautious, direct relationship independent of our parents. Monthly coffee meetings allowed us to discover each other as adults rather than as competitors. Her post-graduation travels had been shortened when our parents finally established some boundaries around their support. I'm looking for a job now, she'd told me. Mom and Dad are still helping with rent, but they said it's time I covered my other expenses. The admission had filled me with complicated emotions, vindication, but also sympathy for the adjustment she faced after years of complete support. It's overwhelming at first, I'd acknowledged. But you adapt faster than you'd expect. How did you do it? She'd asked, genuine curiosity in her expression. All of it, I mean? The jobs, the perfect grades, everything. One day at a time, I'd answered. And with no other option, you find strength when necessity demands it. These conversations with Allison represented the beginning of a relationship built on mutual respect rather than the assigned roles we'd played. Whether it would develop into genuine closeness remained uncertain, but the possibility existed where it hadn't before. With my parents, progress came more slowly. The patterns established over 2 decades couldn't be undone in months. Their first visit to my new apartment had been revealing. They'd brought housewarming gifts and awkward enthusiasm, trying to demonstrate interest. Yet old habits emerged in subtle ways. Questions about when I might find a more prestigious position, suggestions about decor that reflected their tastes. We are so proud of how you've landed on your feet, Dad had said while inspecting my modest living room. Always knew you would, of course. The comment had triggered a familiar sting. the suggestion that my success was inevitable rather than hard-won. This time, however, I'd found words for the feeling. I didn't land on my feet by accident. I'd responded calmly. I built this life deliberately, choice by choice, sacrifice by sacrifice. Nothing about it was guaranteed or easy. His momentary discomfort had given way to thoughtful consideration. You're right, he'd acknowledged finally. We've taken your accomplishments for granted. I'm trying to do better with that. The admission, small as it was, represented progress. At the suggestion of Dr. Wright, I'd begun working with a therapist specializing in family dynamics. Those weekly sessions provided space to process years of disparate treatment. I learned that while I couldn't change my past, I could reshape its meaning and influence on my present. The patterns in your family weren't your fault, my therapist often reminded me. But healing from them is your responsibility. That healing took various forms. Some days it meant establishing clear boundaries. Other days it involved acknowledging the grief for the parental support I'd never received. The hardest work came in separating my sense of value from external validation, recognizing that my worth existed independently of anyone's ability to see it, even my parents. The most unexpected aspect of healing came through mentoring. The scholarship established in my name had selected its first recipient, a brilliant sophomore working 3 jobs to finance her education. Our monthly meetings to discuss her progress became a highlight of my schedule. In supporting her journey, I found myself reclaiming pieces of my own experience, transforming them from wounds into wisdom. How do you deal with the unfairness? She'd asked during our most recent conversation, watching other students get everything handed to them while you work yourself to exhaustion. The question had struck at the heart of my own ongoing healing process. The unfairness doesn't disappear, I told her honestly. But its power over you can. When you build something entirely your own, brick by painful brick, no one can ever take credit for it or take it away from you. There is freedom in that, even when it comes at a high cost. Her nodding response had reflected understanding beyond her years. In helping her navigate her challenges, I was continuously reinterpreting my own. Perhaps the most profound shift came in recognizing that the hardships I'd faced had shaped me in ways I wouldn't trade. The self-reliance, work ethic, and resilience forced upon me by circumstance had become strengths I now claimed by choice. The unfair treatment that might have broken me had instead forged something unbreakable. That realization didn't excuse my parents' favoritism or erase the hurt, but it allowed me to carry that history differently. Not as a burden of resentment, but as testimony to my capacity to thrive despite obstacles. Last weekend, I'd returned to campus for a small ceremony honoring scholarship donors and recipients. Professor Coleman had joined me, our relationship evolving from mentor-student to genuine friendship. "Do you know what I admire most about your journey?" she'd asked. "My stubborn refusal to quit?" I'd suggested with a smile. "Your ability to transform pain into purpose," she'd corrected. "Many people experience unfairness. If you use it to create something beautiful, not just for themselves, but for others." Her observation had captured precisely what I was still learning, that the greatest freedom from past wounds comes not just from healing them, but from repurposing them into foundations for growth. As the scholarship reception ended, I'd watched my recipient chatting animatedly with faculty members, her confidence growing visibly. In her determination, I saw echoes of my younger self, but with one crucial difference: she wasn't completely alone in her journey. The support structure I'd never had was now taking shape for her and others who would follow. That night, back in my apartment, I'd written in my journal about the full circle moment. The entry concluded with words that felt like both an ending and a beginning. "Perhaps this is the most powerful response to unfair treatment, not just to overcome it personally, but to ensure it stops with you. To transform the painful pattern into its opposite." My parents' favoritism taught me the wrong lesson about my worth, but the right lesson about what matters in life. Not what's handed to you, but what you build yourself. Not what you're given, but what you give. Not the approval you seek from others, but the standards you set for yourself. This journey of healing remains unfinished. Some days the old hurt resurfaces unexpectedly. Some family interactions still activate patterns established in childhood. But the difference now is that I recognize these triggers without being defined by them. The story of my life is no longer primarily about what was withheld, but about what I've created in its absence. If there's one truth I've learned through all of this, it's that our most painful experiences often contain our most powerful gifts. Not because the pain itself has value, but because overcoming it reveals strengths we might never have discovered otherwise. The unequal treatment that once defined my family story has become just one chapter in a much larger narrative I'm writing for myself. One choice, one day, one act of creation at a time.